The Vancouver Canucks and the Edmonton Oilers are set to face off in the second round of the Stanley Cup Playoffs, and today we're going to talk about some stats that some people aren't talking about, as well as how these teams match up against each other on paper and who is going to win this series. So you're going to want to stick around for this episode of Hat Trick HQ, but before we get into it, we've got to say, if you're one of the thousands of people watching these videos that aren't subscribed to the channel, if you love the NHL just like all of us here, make sure to go down below and hit that subscribe button, because we're going to be here all season long, all postseason long, all off season long, giving you updates on everything that's happening around the league. But with that said, let's get right into the first topic of the video, which is the Canucks versus the Oilers is going to be nuts. And yes, obviously, when two Canadian teams face off against each other in the Stanley Cup playoffs, it's always going to be a banger of a series, because everybody that's team is not in the playoffs, that's from Canada, like myself, tend to root for other Canadian teams. And now with the Canucks and Oilers, it's set to be either one of these teams are going to be Canada's team going out of this series. So we're just going to talk about how these teams match up on paper, and which team is going to win this series. And one thing we got to bring up is this very interesting stat that happened during the regular season, and that is that the Canucks went 4-0 in their regular season series against the Edmonton Oilers. Yes, the Vancouver Canucks did not lose to the Edmonton Oilers in the regular season this year, which, some people may say they have an advantage going into this playoffs. Obviously, both of these teams have momentum after winning their first round series. So I think this regular season stat may get negated here because they have so much momentum coming from both sides here. But it is an interesting stat nonetheless that the Canucks 4-0'd them in the regular season. And could we see that happen in the playoffs? I don't think so, but we're going to bring up some other stats from the first round of the playoffs here. And as we see, Vancouver had a 15% power play percentage, which was ranked 12th among the playoff teams. And obviously, Edmonton Oilers dominated on the power play against the Los Angeles Kings. I have a 45% power play percentage, ranked first in the playoffs during the first round. Also, Vancouver, you can put that on the other side because they had the third rank penalty kill, which was 90%. And on the other side, we have Edmonton with 100% penalty killing percentage. That is huge through the first round of the playoffs. And we got goals for Vancouver being 2 and goals for Edmonton being 4. So that means Edmonton scored 4 goals a game, whereas Vancouver only scored 2. And the goals against, ranked third in the league is Vancouver by only allowing 2 goals a game, and with Edmonton allowing about 2.5, so they're kind of around the same range here. But it just shows how good Vancouver's goaltending was through the first round. But we're gonna talk about how these teams match up a little later in this video. But first, we're gonna talk about the Canucks side of things. And as we look here, this is from Sportsnet. They say that Vancouver started the first round strong, firing on all cylinders in Game 1, but then came to a potentially devastating blow with the injury of their star goalie, Thatcher Demko. Then obviously that would sideline him for the rest of the series, and by the end of Game 2, the Canucks looked cooked, with Casey DeSmith taking over in cage and getting lit up to the tune of 4 goals on just 16 shots, and Nashville taking a dominant win to level the series. But where previous iterations of the Canucks might have gone away, this group adapted. The final 4 meetings of the series finished as 1-goal games, and the Canucks took 3 out of 4 of those games, getting a redemption effort from DeSmith in Game 3 before 2 clutch crucial wins from rookie Artur Silovs, whose finest showing in a Canucks sweater came in the biggest game of his career, a shutout in Game 6 with everything on the line to clinch the series. And if we just look, this is talking about who the X factor of this series is going to be for the Vancouver Canucks, and that is Artur Silovs. This guy looked phenomenal in that first round. He's hoping to carry it over here in the second round, because the fate of Thatcher Demko is unknown. He was out to skate, but it is looking like maybe Silovs may get a few starts here in this series if Thatcher Demko does come back. And they say here the 23-year-old Silovs has gotten better with each game he's played, culminating a crucial Game 6 performance to help to send the club into the second round. But now the real tests come. The Predators are no slouches. They potted the 10 most goals per game during the regular season, but Edmonton's offense is something else entirely. It's not just the fact that you have McDavid flying at you at top speed with hands that move as quick as feet. It's all the rest of them and how they put it all together. Whoever is manning the Canucks cage come game 1 figures to have their hands full. Maybe it's Demko returning in time for round 2 and picking up where he left off in his Vezina Trophy nominated campaign. Still, whatever the star netminder is dealing with is significant enough that it kept him out of nearly the entire first round. Whether Silovs starts game 1 to give Demko more time to get right, or comes in later and should injury attempt to derail Demko down the line, it still seems likely that the young Latvian will figure onto the series in some form. If he does, Vancouver will need the best to beat these Oilers, and that's right. The X factor for this Vancouver Canucks team is obviously their goaltending situation. You can put it on Demko, you can put it on Silovs, but both of these goalies need to be locked in, whoever's in the cage, because you have Edmonton Oilers who have one of the best offenses in the league, in my opinion, with McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, all these guys, lighting up the stat sheet when it comes to goals, assists, points, and you need to have a star goalie back to stop these guys. And if Thatcher Demko comes back for game 1, that's perfect, because, Thatcher Demko is on a Vezina campaign right now. He was looking like the best goalie in the world before that injury derailed him in round 1. And maybe, he does come back for game 1, but it's going to be interesting to see how that injury did affect him and if he's still feeling some effects of that come game 1, which why I think that Silovs is probably going to get the game 1 start here. They did have some rest now, so maybe Demko is feeling up to playing, but I do think that Silovs is a great backup plan for this team. We see him dominate Nashville in his last game, getting a shutout, sending them to the second round. So I really think that this guy could shut it down against Edmonton. Obviously, they're a completely different offense than Nashville, but I do think that this guy could get it done if it does come to it, and that's why I believe this is the X factor, because if the goalies don't play good, then Edmonton's just going to run away with this series. But if the goaltenders are locked in, they're making crucial saves, then the Vancouver Canucks have a really good chance of winning this series. And if we just take a look at their playoff leaders so far, obviously we see the goaltending. They have 3 different goalies here. In 3 games, Artur Silovs had a .938 save percentage with 1 shutout, which is absolutely phenomenal through 3 games in the playoffs. And then Thatcher Demko obviously played that 1 game where he had a .917. Casey DeSmith played 2 games, 1 win, 1 loss, where he had a .911. So all 3 goalies have had a solid playoff campaign. But if we look at the points here, this is what you need to look at, and that is Brock Boeser. This guy had 4 goals in 6 games, 6 points in 6 games, a point per game in the playoffs. And alongside him is JT Miller, who had 6 points in 6 games with 5 assists, 1 goal. Then we had Quinn Hughes, the captain, with 5 points in 6 games. We had Dakota Joshua with 4 and 6. We had Elias Lindholm pickup, who he got 3 points in 6 games. Nikita Zadorov got 3 points in 6 games. Pedersen had 3 points in 6 games as well, and Connor Garland had 2 points in 6 games, and that's just their point leaders right now during this playoff run. Another key factor for this Vancouver Canucks team is obviously on the back of Brock Boeser, a guy who's leading the team in goals right now. If he can find a way to get him past Stuart Skinner, I think this will be a crucial part of this series for this team as well. Obviously, Elias Pettersson kind of, had that 3 points in 6 games, so maybe we expect to see Pettersson pick it up here now in the second round against the Oilers and put a lot of points up on the board, because a lot of people did expect Pettersson to be a point per game player in the playoffs, which he hasn't shown yet, but I wouldn't worry, Canucks fans, because I think it is on the way. I think that Pettersson is going to take off here in the second round, which, Vancouver's offense needs to be there against this Edmonton Oilers team, because we already know Edmonton is going to be an offensive powerhouse, so you need to try to match that if you are the Vancouver Canucks. But another great thing that the Canucks have is a solid D-core. We've seen here with the goaltending combined with the defense, they've only let in 2 goals a game, so if they can continue to limit this Edmonton Oilers offense to 2 goals a game, I think they can win this series. And I think, with, Nikita Zadorov back there, guys like this, I think they will be able to shut down this offense. But they're going to need to score as much as Edmonton. And this is where all the offensive players on this team need to step up here and to show why this team needs to win a Stanley Cup. Because if all these, top players that I just named can step up and score goals, get points, I think they could get past the Edmonton Oilers. But we're going to flip it on to the other side of the coin here, which is the Oilers side of things. And if we take a look here, it says the franchise's recent history of playoff battles is clear as a map of a core progress you'll find. In 3 years, the Oilers have continued to beat the Kings in quicker and more decisive fashion than years previous. It took 7 games in 2022, 6 in 2023, and just 5 this time around in 2024. And the latest series saw Edmonton give the Kings a little bit of everything. A 7-4 rout in Game 1, another 6-1 rout in Game 3, and a hard-fought 1-0 win in Game 4, and a comeback win in Game 5 to close out the series. If you look at the clubs that struggled through this first round and the issues that plague them, you'll find the opposite in Edmonton's right now. The Stars are dominating, the power play looks unstoppable, and the goalie's one of the only 3 across the league who's managed a shutout in these playoffs. The other guy being Artur Siloff on the other side for the Vancouver Canucks. And we look at the X factor for this series for the Edmonton Oilers, and that is Zach Hyman. It isn't McDavid or Draisaitl who's pacing the Oilers in goals through one round this year. It's Zach Hyman. His 7 goals through the Oilers' first 5 tilts, leading the league to this point. He calls them gifts. You can call them gifts. Credit them all to 97. In the end, it doesn't really matter if you're the team on the other side of the sheet. What's indisputable is the fact that Hyman appears to be the perfect endgame for McDavid's all-world playmaking abilities. He's mastered the art of putting himself in position to finish off whatever wizardry McDavid directs his way. And yes, obviously having 7 goals in 5 games is going to put you up there as the X factor for the Edmonton Oilers against this Vancouver Canucks team. And if McDavid can continue his wizardry here in this second round, I think this is going to look good in the Edmonton Oilers direction, because if he can continue to put him on a plate for Zach Hyman's going to continue putting them in the back of the net. And the thing is, if it all comes down to, like I said before, the Vancouver side, is the defense. If they allow McDavid to get in and work his magic to find Zach Hyman in front of the net, then it's going to be a tough series for Vancouver to try to fight back. At this point, they've only allowed 2 goals a game, but if you allow McDavid to set up a guy for 2 or 3 assists a night, it's going to be hard for you to win a game that way. And that's why I think Zach Hyman is going to be the X factor, because if he can continue to score on the rate that he is right now, I don't think there's a way that Vancouver can win this series. But if the Vancouver Canucks have a good game plan to shut down the offense of the Edmonton Oilers, which I expect they will, this could be their way to win this series. But we got to talk about the other guys who are on this team as well. It's not just Hyman and McDavid. It's Leon Draisaitl, who has 10 points in 5 games, 5 goals, 5 assists. And then we have Connor McDavid with 12 points, 11 of them being assists, most of them to Zach Hyman on his 7 goals, as you see down here in the list, with 8 points in 5 games. Then we have Nuge, who had 5 assists, 1 goal in those 5 games. And we had Evander Kane, who had 3 points in 5 games as well for this team. So it's looking really good for the Edmonton Oilers right now, and obviously Stuart Skinner started all 5 games, putting up a .910 save percentage and 1 shutout. So it's looking good if you're an Edmonton Oiler fan right now, because obviously you have, the best player in the world in McDavid and one of the top 5 players in the world in Draisaitl on your team, and they're, proving that they can get about 2 points a game here at this point in the playoffs. So if they can continue on this rate and they can continue to score and put points on the board like they're doing right now, it's going to be very hard for the Vancouver Canucks, because if McDavid can keep setting these guys up, if Draisaitl can keep setting these guys up and putting them in the back of the net, it's going to be a tough series for the Vancouver Canucks, especially if Thatcher Demko isn't back. Because I think if Demko is back, this guy has been a phenomenal goalkeeper for this team this entire series. So if, he goes out and is perfect and he's fine and he's back healthy, I think he can stop some of these chances that McDavid and Draisaitl and Hyman, all these guys are creating. But if you put a rookie goaltender in there like Artur Siloff, although he's played really good against Nashville, these are different caliber players in McDavid and Draisaitl, and I think it will be tough for Siloffs to try to find an answer for these guys. But do I think he can do it? I think he will, and I think this will be a really tight series between these two teams, and it all comes down to the goaltending battle, because if Stuart Skinner can play like he's playing right now and can limit, and their Edmonton Oilers defense can limit the offense of the Vancouver Canucks, it's going to be tough a tough series to win for either side. But we're going to get into the predictions here. And my prediction for this series, like I said, I'm just going to kind of wrap it all up here. And that is, whoever's defense and goaltending is better during this series is going to win the series. If Edmonton's defense and goalkeeping can limit, the Vancouver Canucks to 2 goals a game, they're going to win the series. If the Vancouver Canucks and their defense can limit the Edmonton Oilers to 2 goals a game, they will win the series. I think it all depends on the goaltending in this situation. If Artur Silovs can come in and play like he did in round 1, it's going to be hard on the Edmonton Oilers. And if Stuart Skinner can come in and play like he did in round 1, it's going to be tough on the Vancouver Canucks. Which comes to my prediction for this series. I think it's going to be a very tight-knit series. I think it's going to go 7 games. I think Edmonton wins in 7. Now, I'm sorry, Vancouver Canucks fans, but I do think that if it all comes down to it, 1 game wins it all, single elimination in Game 7, I think that the Edmonton Oilers are going to win. And I think it's about time that McDavid, Draisaitl, and this Edmonton Oilers team fought their way to a Stanley Cup Stanley Cup Finals, and I think this is the year for this core to go out there and make it to the Stanley Cup Finals. And with the way they're playing right now, McDavid putting up over 2 points per game, and Draisaitl putting up 2 points per game, I think it's going to be a tough series for the Vancouver Canucks, and I think it's going to either be Oilers in 6 or Oilers in 7. But my prediction is Oilers in 7 because I think that the Vancouver Canucks offense is going to be good enough to try to match this Oilers offense. But we'll have to see what happens. I want to hear your guys' predictions down below in the comment section. Do you agree? Do you think the Oilers are winning in 7? Or do you think the Canucks are going to battle back, maybe win in 7, win in 6? Let me know down below. I'd love to see the Canucks win. I love how this team has been playing this year. But being realistic, I think it's McDavid's year, and I think he's sick of being put out of the playoffs, and I think he's going to put it all in to this playoffs, as we've already seen with 12 points through 5 games. But I want to hear your guys' predictions down below in the comment section. Love to hear from you guys, but we're going to get into everybody's favorite topic here on the channel, which is comment of the day. And the comment of the day today goes to Michael. He says, Marner to Chicago for Seth Jones, sign Brandon Montour and Zadorov. And Michael, I know a lot of people are going to disagree with you here now on this comment of the day, and I'm one of them. I don't think you trade Marner for Seth Jones. Seth Jones is a good player, but he has a big contract, and he's an aging player. I don't think you trade away Marner for this guy. I think you can get something back better in return, but one thing that I liked that you said there was sign Zadorov. I think Zadorov would really help this Toronto Maple Leafs team on the back end, and I'd really love to see him in a Leafs uniform. But if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure down below, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We're on the road for 3,500 subscribers here on the channel, so if you're not subscribed to the channel already and you enjoy the NHL and you enjoy NHL content here on YouTube, don't want to miss anything we're posting, make sure to go down below and hit that subscribe button. And if you want to check out a video we did yesterday talking about the Leafs, it'll be popping up on your screen right now. But as always, I've been your host, Casey. We'll catch you in the next one.